we went back out in November of 2021. That was cool, but then we didn't really tour for a while after that. I don't know. It's nice to have a new album and a reason to tour again.
Was that the longest that you had been off the road?
Probably. I think, yeah, maybe there was some, there was a short, maybe 9-month break or something around Volume 1, Volume 2, but I think, the pandemic definitely screwed up our normal routine, as did with everyone else.
I guess I would say calling a global pandemic a mixed blessing is probably being overly positive. And it was a funny thing of, I started doing this virtually during it, and I would ask people, especially like musicians fairly early on, about, how it did it impact their lives and, like effectively how they're doing. And a lot of people would just in hushed tones tell me that, like, oh yeah, it was actually really nice because it forced me to, like not be on the road for a while and be with my family. Obviously, like, nobody wants to say the pandemic was good for them necessarily, but like there were some positives.
Sure. I mean, I think it really helped our band in a sense that if the pandemic hadn't happened, we would have put this record out years ago, and it would have been a little different. And I don't necessarily know if it would have been different in a good way, it gave us plenty of time to live with these songs and this idea for an album that we had. So, but playing live is what I really love to do, though. So the pandemic was not really fruitful for me creatively, and was pretty depressing, to be honest. I just wanted to go play.
Why wasn't it fruitful? It's that thing of, like, obviously all of a sudden you have a ton of time that you didn't have previously.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I learned a couple things. I guess I learned how to use Pro Tools and stuff, so that's cool. But, yeah, I mean, it wasn't all wasted time, I still had plenty to do, but I just wasn't really writing, It wasn't inspirational to me at all.
Do you primarily do your writing on the road?
Lately it seems like I'm most creative when me and the other dudes are jamming and stuff. That kind of gets me going. So, in the pandemic, we're all living in different states and stuff. And, I hated all that virtual stuff, so I wasn't always game to do that after I did a few. I don't know, just I was quite literally isolated. I moved to a rural town in upstate New York, and I wasn't playing with any other musicians, and I'm glad to put that behind me. I'm glad the whole world could put that behind us.
I feel like I missed a step. Now, granted, it's been like several years since your last like big publicity tour, but you had moved from Nashville to Rhode Island, and now you're in upstate?
No, I lived in upstate for a year in between.
Was that a pandemic move?
Yes, that was a calculated decision. We wanted our daughter, she was entering kindergarten that year, and we wanted her to be able to attend school in person. She wasn't going to be able to do that in Nashville. We had spent the summer in New England, and kind of by the end of the summer, we were like, we're not going back, are we? Made some really quick, really big decisions, all one after the other. Like, all right, let's sell that house. We got to buy a house in Rhode Island or Massachusetts. We can't find one now. Where are we going to live? Where's she going to go to school? We figured it all out in about a week. And before you know it, I'm down in Nashville staging the house for for walkthroughs and shit, and that was that.
I live in Queens, so I was riding out the pandemic in this 1-bedroom apartment, and this like nightmare scenario to be in Queens in 2020. But it seems like upstate New York is a pretty, if you had to choose, a pretty good place to ride out a pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful, and we were able to do a lot of stuff outdoors, and we met a lot of nice people up there. I did love the routine in the winter of getting up early and starting a fire in the stove and all that. It was nice, simple.
Just on the face of it, a big change from Nashville, a very vibrant music town. I suppose a place with a lot of live music that doesn't really mean a whole hell of a lot when there's a pandemic happening.
Yeah, Nashville was. I don't really know. I mean, I only spent like the first 2 months of lockdown there, and then we decided to head up to New England to spend the summer, so we could go to the beach and escape the southern heat. But yeah, honestly, I kind of stopped really going out and doing shit in Nashville anyway. I was really already maybe on my way to isolating myself in one way or another. I kind of, I felt like I put in my time there, and I was really shocked and happy when my wife suggested that we move to New England.
What brought you to Nashville in the first place?
Partying.
There are a lot of places that one can party. There must have been something about Nashville specifically.
No, I met a few great people there. Adam Landry, he's a producer, guitarist. He had a studio down there, and that was kind of that was the moment when I was like, wait, this is cool. Maybe I should move here. Like, everybody has a studio in their backyard. It was fun. I don't know. I was young. Nashville was a little smaller, a little bit weirder of a place at the time. And, I kind of moved there before it went completely off the rails, with bachelorette parties and, bicycle bars and all that stuff, and there was no Kid Rock's big ass honky tonk.
Did you ever expect to be back in Rhode Island?
Yeah, but I was thinking like maybe when my kid's off to college or something, then we'd move, But I think making a big move like that, like while she was so young, I think she can. She'll forgive us for it. And I think if she had started in elementary school there, and then we pulled her out, and after she already made some good friends and all that, I think she would have held that against us for a while. So it was kind of like leave now or leave in 15 years.
Is it family? I mean, why did you expect to gravitate back there at some point?
Well, I mean, I enjoy the summer in New England a lot more than the summer in Nashville. And I guess kind of, I wasn't doing anything else, so I really got to savor it.
I mean, I wonder if you have the same thing that I do, which like I travel around a fair bit for work, like not as much as a touring musician, but I've always had that thing. I mean, I've been in New York for like close to 20 years at this point, but I've always had that thing where like every time I get to a new city, I picture myself there and imagine if that's somewhere that I could or would want to end up.
Yeah,
it's interesting that you went back, specifically to, because you're like outside of Providence now, is that right?
Yeah, I grew up in Providence, and now I live just outside, but yeah, family was a big thing too. I mean, when the shit hits the fan, it's good to have some sort of support system nearby. In Nashville, neither of us had any family down there. We were a very closed unit. I don't know. It just seemed to make sense.
You and your wife are also both professional musicians, so I don't know if there are too many instances when you're like on the road or not around at the same time, but like that's the beauty of having family nearby is like if it comes to that, you can have somebody watch a kid for a bit.
Yeah, typically we don't, we try not to do that, but there are always once in a while a scheduling conflict, and now it's a lot easier to let's get someone to watch our daughter for a few days, You
said you had taught yourself Pro Tools. I mean, it sounds like you were at least thinking of doing some home recording.
Well, what were we doing? We were sending, like, demos back and forth. A lot of friends of mine asked me to, like, can you play accordion on this song or whatever? And, even though I hated doing all those videos and stuff, we really couldn't get away with not doing them, so we started. So I had to record my parts and make them sound somewhat good. And I had just started to work with Pro Tools like right before the pandemic. Like I kind of just knew the basics in like that February, March, and then by the time everybody's recording these virtual concerts and stuff, I was a bit, I got quite a bit better at it. But now I haven't done it in a while. And now we just set up our new studio in Providence. And, if I'm trying to do anything on Pro Tools now, I was like, hey, Dennis, what do I got to hit how do I do this again? I don't remember. So I guess like anything else, you got to use it or lose it.
Yeah, I mean, it's presumably like riding a bike. I'm sure like once you actually like get back in and start recording in earnest, then you'll pick it up.
I mean, if it's like a bike, then it's like when you pick the bike back up, it's like missing a wheel, and you're like, how do I put the wheel back on? We
all need to figure out how to reattach a wheel at some point in our life. It is part of riding a bike.
This chain is broken. Damn it.
In this era of like everybody obviously like getting into home recording out of necessity, that you end up recording this record and you do it at somebody else's studio, and you do it with this like big famous producer, and you kind of, I don't know, it seems like you allowed yourself to give up more control than perhaps you have on previous records.
I think I used to be a bit more involved with like trying to also produce what was going on, and I don't know, I just wanted one cook in the kitchen this time, and if we're talking about producers, well, Dave Fridman is a world-class chef. That makes no sense.
One chef implies that you just sort of took yourselves out of that equation entirely.
Yeah, just like, okay, I play guitar and sing. That's all I'm going to do in this recording session. You tell me how it should go, Dave.
I guess you'd feel like a real asshole trying to tell Dave Fridman or arguing with him about how something should sound.
Yeah, you don't want to go down that road.
I was reading up on it a little bit. I didn't realize until looking at today. So he produced your wife's last record. So you had actually like worked with him relatively recently.
Yeah, I liked the vibe. I liked he's got a really laid back approach to it. I think he's got like every piece of musical equipment ever invented under the sun. Under one roof. Just a overall really nice guy, easy to hang out with, great facilities, just nice place, that creative environment.
What is his process like? I mean, I know obviously, as you said, you had more time to work on these songs. I think you came to him with like 20 songs all told. What is his process?
Well, with us, he was like, do you want to try to figure out what the songs for the record are, or are we going to try to record everything? And they're like, well, let's start with a couple that we are like 90% sure are going to go on the record, and let's just see how fast we can get through them, So the first day we set up our gear, and he set up a PA system in the live room, and he just sat there. He just set up a table and a chair, and he just took notes, and he had us play all 20 songs. And then he had his ideas of what we should do with them when we record them. And day 2, we picked an easy one that we thought we could nail in 1 or 2 takes, and that's what happened. And then we moved on, and I don't know, by the end of 2 weeks, we had recorded 20 songs.
Did all of the ones that you were 90% sure about end up making it onto the record?
No, because we ended up making the record a little shorter than we had planned. We thought maybe it would be 12 songs, but then we couldn't fit it all on one LP, and that was important to us because we kind of wanted this record to be a very tight package, I guess. I didn't, and I wanted, for audiophiles, I wanted the quality of the record to be the best it could. So I didn't want to exceed the recommended time on each side of the record and all this stuff. I thought if we made it a really kind of punchy, powerful listen that was over in 40 minutes, then I felt that was the right way to go, instead of getting into like side C and side D, and I don't know. We found a sequence that we thought worked with 10 songs, and it met all the criteria that we were going for, and yeah, that was the hardest part of making this record, was sequencing it and figuring out what to cut and what to keep, and yeah, there were a lot of long discussions about it.
If something doesn't make the cut, is that it for that song, or is there an expectation that you might revisit it at some point?
I think there are a lot of songs in the Deer Tick graveyard like that, that maybe they come out as a B-side or on an EP or something, but then we never think about them again. We never play them live, etc. But we're all pretty fond of the unused material from this record, so I would like to maybe do an EP or something and actually play the songs live. And there are a couple of the songs that didn't quite get to the finish line that I would like to revisit and finish writing the lyrics for and stuff. And, maybe try recording 1 or 2 of them over again.
That seems like maybe one of the takeaways in all of this is you again, because of the pandemic, you were like forced to sit on songs. You were forced to wait. You had some distance from them, and then you revisit them at a certain point. And it sounds like you really kind of came away with the understanding that there's a lot of value. There's a lot of value in sort of like stepping away and re-examining something.
Absolutely. I think the way we used to do things was kind of like, okay, we got like 11 songs written. Let's just go to the studio and record them, and that's an album. There wasn't really any additional thought put into it, except for Volume 1, Volume 2. That was maybe the first time Deer Tick took a more deliberate approach to what exactly we were going to do when we got into the studio, other than like, well, we have enough to fit on an album.
You alluded to this a little bit earlier, that it would be a dramatically different record if you had been given the opportunity to record it soon after the last I heard. Because it's been, God, what, like, I guess 6 years since the last album came out, which is a pretty considerable amount of time, like, especially for a band like yours. What's your sense of how the record would have been different?
I think the songs that, there are songs that hadn't been written yet that are on the record now. So there would be a few omissions, notably If I Try to Leave and Forgiving Ties would not be on there. And those are like the first two songs on the record. I don't know. It would have been different, and I don't know that it would have been as good. I think it was just letting the ones that were written kind of slowly evolve a little bit more. Just wait it out and see if any new songs came to us in the meantime. I think it helped the record in the grand scheme of things.
Maybe a better way to approach the question is, from my end, is, do you feel like a dramatically different person than the you of 6 years ago?
Not really. No. But, I'm sure I am a much different person. But, it's slow changes over time. So, I think maybe this was where we were going to end up anyway, and it just kind of accelerated that, So now I'm already scheming about like the next two records and what they're going to be like. And I think now that we know we can wait so long between records. Maybe I won't freak out about getting into the studio as soon as we have 10 songs written,
Yeah, but man, like 2 records, so like, theoretically that could be like 12 years from now. If you're thinking 2 records ahead at this point, then it sounds like you're going to want to release them a lot faster than a 6-period gap between them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm just fooling around, but yeah, but I could be a little bit more patient about it, I guess.
Are you serious though about actually thinking like about the next 2? Is it hard for you to just kind of focus on one at a time?
No, I mean we're out here, working this record as hard as we can. So this is just when I already know we have a bunch of songs sitting around, and I just get excited about the record making process, and it's so fun to tour when you have something new. That really, I want to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that Forgiving Ties was one of the more recent additions because, I mean, it's a pop song. It's very much like a straightforward rock song, and I feel like you kind of make a statement when that's the lead single. Yeah,
I think it's because it sounds new for us, but it still sounds like us. It doesn't sound like we're reaching for something or trying to claw our way into some space that we don't belong or whatever. It's just a slow evolution and something new that we wanted to add to our sound, I guess. And so I think it is kind of probably the boldest lead single we could have picked for the record for that reason. But I don't know, it's doing well at radio, so that's, I think we made the right call.
Knowing what I know about you and like having followed the band for a long time, it didn't seem like maybe you were focused on radio in that way.
No. absolutely not. We I mean, radio to us means like going into some sterile studio environment at 10 in the morning, hungover on tour, and like trying to just get out of there as fast as fucking possible.
Being asked the same question in every city, and
yeah. But now that we actually do have a single that's
now that you've tasted some success
at radio, it's pretty cool.
You know, obviously I heard that song before I heard the record, and I was like, oh, is this a different lead singer? Like, is that, you know, in a way, like you are kind of giving up control a little bit. Is that something that you would have done, you know, 10, 15 years ago?
I mean, well, Deer Tick's had multiple lead singers since Divine Providence, and even before that, there was a EP that came out after Black Dirt Sessions that had our old guitarist Andrew Tobiasen singing lead on it. So I assembled the band with that in mind. I never wanted to be like the only lead singer, but that's just kind of how it worked in the beginning, because we were still trying to figure out what this band was. I think a lot of people kind of thought it was like a solo project for me.
It kind of was for a little while, right?
I think only because it was forced to be that way. You know, I was always looking to put together a band like we have now, and I mean, like, and it's been this lineup for most of Deer Tick's time together. I mean, Ian's the new guy, and he's been in the band for 14 years.
I think I just saw. I think he just did a cameo for a second there.
Yeah, yeah.
That he's a new guy.
Yeah, he's a new guy. But you know, I think we led off Negativity with one of his songs too, which Dreams in the Ditch. So, I don't know. That's just how it works. No writer or singer in this band is more entitled than the other to you know, get the spotlight put on them.
Forgiving Ties too, it's just kind of inevitable when you hear a song like that. You're like, yeah, this is a single. Yeah, it was like the first song that Dave mixed for the record too, so I think it just added to the excitement. It was like, oh my god, look, listen to what he did with the song. It's exciting. There's a really beautiful quote. It feels weird saying there's a beautiful quote in the press release, but like there is, where you're talking about being deliberate. He said, I feel lucky that we ran into each other like at a point pretty early on in our lives. And like the thing about that is, I don't know if that's necessarily a thing people think about when they're putting bands together. You approached it like a relationship. You approached it in terms of like getting a group of dudes together who like you clearly want to spend a lot of time with. Yeah. 'Cause I know a lot of bands, and I know that a lot of bands fucking hate each other. Like, it's like, I don't know, you wouldn't stay in any other relationship with somebody that you hate. So, but people do it in bands all the time. It makes no sense to me. People do it in jobs too. Like, a lot of people hate their coworkers. That's not an uncommon thing. Yeah, it's true. A really good way to test your friendship with somebody is to like jam yourself into a van with them and tour around the country. Oh yeah, you're so like tuned into like everybody's like bowel movements and everything. It's like you really can't escape one another. You must have missed that aspect of it too when you were off the road for so long. Are you guys still in fairly constant communication even when there's not an album or a tour on the horizon? Oh yeah, like Ian and I are like neighbors now, so I mean we're
we're doing shit together all the time. I don't know. Yeah, Ian just got a house with a pool, so I think we're going to be there all the time when we're not on tour this summer. Right, Ian?
Yep.
Congratulations on the pool.
Congratulations on your pool.
Thank you. It's a lot of work.
How much of the band is actually still in Rhode Island at this point?
Everybody is. Once again, we were all over the place for a while.
I know everybody's like remote and spread out. I mean, I know like every band, obviously, like it's inevitable that people are going to move away from each other, and obviously they figure it out. But like there is something to being in the same area when it comes to like, you know, like making music or practicing.
Yeah, it's great. We get together once a week at least, just to jam or just do things that need to get done around our new studio. And well, you know, it's inevitable that maybe bands members move away or go different cities, but it doesn't. I don't know that it always happens the other way around, where everybody moves back to the same.
I don't know that I've ever heard of that before, so you definitely have something special. You know, in terms of whittling it down to 10 songs, and when keeping it really, when keeping the record tight is an important part of the vetting process, like from a very like pragmatic, practical record of like fitting it on one disc. But still, the final song is, I mean, there is a 9-minute long song on there, which leads me to believe that was something that you just really wanted on the record.
That was like everybody wanted it on, and we didn't know that it could belong anywhere else except the last track on the album. I mean, there was briefly talk about making it the opening track, but that would I don't know that would have been the right move. So that was our starting point. Really, was like, this is going to be the last song. This is number 10. What are the other 9? You know, and we had like a spreadsheet with like the running times of all the songs to try to keep the time balanced on each side the best we could, because a 9-minute song is obviously going to throw things off.
You're sacrificing 2 songs, like in a sense. There, it's taking up the spot of 2 songs on the album. What was so special that was really the only one that you knew definitely needed to go on the record?
I mean, I was really happy with just the performance of it and the production that Dave brought to it, and the fact that that 9 minutes could go by without you realizing it, I guess, I just thought that was kind of a cool hallucination. You know,
it's funny to look at it that way. The subject matter is pretty heavy.
Sure, yeah. It's just, I mean, it's really a song about clinical depression. But, I mean, everybody gets depressed once in a while. It's kind of universal subject matter. So
I've dealt with both kinds of depression. I think, I don't know, I could be wrong. I think clinical depression is maybe a little bit more of a unique experience, but I don't know, maybe it is something that is a little easier to talk about because there is a sense in which it is a universal experience.
I think it's easier to sing about.
Yeah.
for me, but yeah, I think it's pretty popular to air out all your feelings nowadays if you're an artist or something, but I like to keep my personal life personal.
Easier to sing about because you don't have to, I guess, be specific about it.
Yeah, it doesn't have to all quite be so literal, or you could do it in a way that's cathartic and just, I don't know, it's more interesting to me to hear somebody sing a song or watch a performance of a song than it is to listen to somebody talk about how depressed they are. You know?
Is it a topic that you've approached, or I guess at least is it a topic that you've kind of approached in this direct a way before?
No, this is a pretty direct song. I mean, I tried to use as few words as possible. You know, I'm not trying to mask what it's about. So, yeah, I guess in a way that is kind of new.
This is something that like I've gotten more comfortable talking about myself, you know, in terms of like what I've dealt with. And I think a big part of it is because of what happened over the last 3 years. Like, I think, you know, like for me personally, like I was, for personal reasons, I was very like hesitant to do like therapy at all. And then like, I think a lot of people just got to breaking point. It's a lot easier, not easier. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's easier to ignore depression in that way when you're distracted or when there's a lot of other things going on. And then all of a sudden, like, we have 3 years and we're kind of, I mean, obviously you've got your family, you know, some people in the area, but like, we're kind of alone with our thoughts for 3 years. And it became impossible for people to avoid.
That's why I'm glad I hit my breaking point a couple of years before the pandemic. But no, I mean, if that's something you recognize in yourself and you're able to figure it out, I mean, that's the best.
I mean, the decision to sort of tackle it in a direct way on record wasn't influenced by the last 3 years.
No, I finished writing the lyrics in February of 2020. So,
for you, what role does music play in that? I mean, obviously, there's a sense in which, like, this song specifically, you know, you mentioned the word catharsis. Is music something that you've generally used as a tool to help you through those moments?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, music's been kind of the biggest driving force in my life since I was probably since before I could walk. You know, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's kind of everything.
Your close friendships. You know, you married a musician, which I assume is useful as far as like being able to kind of like contextualize and sort of like explain. Somebody who like understands what you like, somebody who like innately understands what you do for a living. It makes your life that much easier.
It does help. But yeah, it's kind of funny. When my wife and I met, we were both kind of in the same boat. Like, oh, I'm never going to date another fucking musician ever again. And then I'll marry one instead.
I guess you were technically correct.
Yeah. 10-year anniversary this year, so it's working out.
Congratulations. And I noticed you played guitar on her last record, and I know like you performed together over the years too. It sounds like playing together has been I guess an important part of keeping that relationship going.
Yeah, it's you know, I'm always happy to, you know, help out and go play with Vanessa whenever she needs a guitar player. And yeah, it's just really lovely to have somebody to bounce ideas off of, and you know, both ways. I
know one of the songs in the record is written on accordion, and you mentioned that at a certain point, like it sounds like you became the go-to accordion guy. Like at what point did that happen?
I think I went to like Sam Ash or something in Nashville just to buy some guitar strings, and I saw a little accordion for sale, and I've always really loved the accordion. It's actually a great band from Providence that was led by an accordionist, Alec K. Redfern and the Eyesores. They were like my favorite band in town when I was in high school and stuff. I mean, they still are. They still are probably the best band in town. I really love that band. But so I get home, I start fooling around with it, and like by the end of the day, I've figured out a little bit of what to do. But then man, this is so small. This is such a hard thing to play. So I realized I had bought. It's called a ladies accordion, which is for like children and like people with small fingers. So that explained that. So then I went looking for a full-size piano accordion and found one at a pawn shop. And yeah, I don't know. I love the sound, and it's just a fun thing to play. It was a challenge. But yeah, once everybody learns that you play accordion, hey, you play on my record.
It's interesting that that you were able to pick it up that quickly, because and again, I'm very much not a musician, but like it's always looked to me. I've always been intimidated by it. It looks like a really complicated instrument.
I'm still intimidated by it when I'm like, oh, I gotta play accordion on this. Damn it! Like I've vowed to I'm never gonna try to do it live. I that's my skill level, is studio only.
You say that now, but I guarantee at some point you're going to be on stage playing the accordion.
We'll see.